Please note, the shaders I am about to showcase are not acknowledged nor endorsed by Nintendo. I am not affiliated in any way with Nintendo, nor am I reusing any of their code, assets, or otherwise proprietary material.
Yoo-hoo! Hello! I'm Azura Hardware, and I'm using this video to talk about my Flipnote shaders I've made for Unreal Engine that I posted on the Fab Marketplace. Now, Azura, these do not look like Flipnote shaders, this just looks like the basic Unreal layout. Well, I'll fucking get to it, be patient. If you don't know what Flipnotes are the format used by Flipnote Studio, a tool for the Nintendo DSi that allow you to animate these little short animations just on the tiny little screen of your DSi. It has a lot of limitations. For example, you can only use 3 colors and only 2 colors at a time. You also have to use dithering in order to make shading possible. You can only use audio up to 1 minute, unless you use specific workarounds which compromise your audio quality. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is the shaders that I've made to replicate the style of it in Unreal Engine. If you're not familiar with what a Flipnote looks like, this is kind of what you can expect. It is very, very pixely and very, very dithery. That is generally what you can expect a Flipnote to look like, and this is the style I'm trying to replicate. It's generally a pretty sought after style due to it being nostalgic to a lot of people, and I'm going to show you just what you can do with the shader. So I've made it a material instance. The materials that's being used by the post-processing volumes are material instances to make them easier to edit. You can just use the base one, but I instead recommend just creating an instance of it and editing the parameters from that menu. Now I've got 4 presets in this example map alone. What you're seeing right now is the red and blue preset. It's just a layer of blue and a layer of red. Here is a layer of black and a layer of red. Here is a layer of blue and a layer of black. And here is the 3-color mode that I've snuck into the shader. So now that you know what to expect from these shaders in general, I'm going to show you just how to use them, how to tweak them to your liking, and just exactly how much you can do with them. So I've really tried to make it as accurate to the source material as possible in the way that these colors work like layers. So none of them blend, none of them sort of overlay each other. They are treated as separate layers. So there's a black layer and a red layer if you want, and a paper layer, the paper layer being white. First thing I'm going to go over is the colors. Like right here, you can choose which colors you want to use for which layers. They're all separated into their own little categories here, and if you want 3 colors, it adds a color 3 category. We're not going to deal with color 3 just yet. We're just focusing on these 2 colors right now. So color 1. Color 1 is basically the black layer. You can go into color 1 and change its color to literally anything you want. It is very, very highly customizable. Like, you can change it to a sort of a soft greenish yellow. You can change it to blue. You can literally do anything with its colors. But for now, we are going to keep it black. Oops, that's not the correct way. So that's what the color variable does. It literally it's pretty self-explanatory. What we're going to be going over next is the dither tables. What dither tables are is it's hard to describe. It's sort of the process of going from one color to another color. It's like a gradient, but since it only uses 2 colors, it has to simulate that gradient, meaning it spaces pixels out in a certain way that kind of, from afar, make it look like it's a mix of the 2 colors. So what we have here is 5 dither tables for you to use, and it is done this way because that is generally what you do in Flipnote. You just use 5 presets to shade. You can use more if you want, but you only really need 5. Now, you can edit these dither tables to whichever table you want. You can put this one here. It looks very weird, but you can do that. You can put this here, you can put this here. You can make the dither layers just look like anything you want, basically. There's pretty much no limit to how you want your dithering to look. It can look like it's going the opposite way as well. You can sort of emulate cell shading by having it go from one solid color to another solid color. And since these are textures, these options are not just limited to the dither tables that I have packaged with the shader either. You can set these to basically anything, which means that yes, you can set a dither table to an image of Joe Swanson. As long as it's an image and it has differing brightness levels, it will display as a dither. You can basically just do anything with this.
Hey Peter, I'm holding these pixels together with the power of my mind.
Let me just reset the values real quick. Now, the next parameter I'm going to go into is the threshold. What is a threshold? It's sort of like the start point and the end point of a specific dither. So you see dither texture 1, and it has its own allocated threshold, C1 dither threshold 1. If you change the value of this, you can see that the black starts to go away, and more of this dither starts to show up. You can do this with every single layer. Threshold 2. Basically, what this is if you've messed around with a gradient editor in a paint program or the color ramp node with Blender, this is basically what that is. There's also a highlight threshold, which allows you to do basically the same thing but with a paper layer. Long story short, it's basically just changing how much dither shows up. The next parameter is dither shift. Now, what dither shift does is it flips the images of the dithers. Here's what that looks like. It doesn't look like it's doing much, but if your shader is using 2 colors, it's actually a really good way to change how the colors appear. For example, if you're using a red pattern, this one doesn't have dither shift on, but you can turn it on by doing this. So if you have 2 colors, it actually changes a lot about how your colors show up. I actually think this looks nicer, but you can, yeah, it's very, very customizable. If you use dither shift Y, basically does the same thing, but on the Y-axis. It doesn't really look like it's doing much here because this dither table doesn't really have it's symmetrical on the Y-axis, so it's not really doing much, but you can do it with both axes. You can also do it with every single dither layer, so it's all good. This is actually a method that a lot of Flipnotes used back in the day.
Back in my day, we only had 256 by 192 pixels. We didn't have your digital circuses or whatever kids watch nowadays, Human Centipede.
So that's pretty much it for dither shift. The next parameter I want to go into is use color difference. Now, this seems pretty vague, and I understand why. I just didn't really have a better word for it. What color difference does is it takes the color of your current layer, and if the color of the pixels in the image align with the color of the current layer, then it exacerbates that color more on that layer. It is pretty difficult to describe. So if your color is red, then it will take the red from the original image, it will use it to sort of push out the red aspects of the image more, and if it was green, it would do the same with green. I hope I explained that well. I know I kind of butchered it, but you know, no one's perfect. The last few variables I want to talk about are the 3-color one, which it's pretty self-explanatory. It gives you another color layer, which the original Flipnote Studio couldn't do, so there you go. Will I add more color layers in the future? Possibly, I don't really know. It really depends. It might get a bit weird with too many colors. It might get a bit overwhelming, but you know, customizability and all that. There's the paper layer, which you can also change the color of. Also pretty self-explanatory. Now, pixel density. What this does is it takes the amount of pixels in the image and divides them by this value. Notice how the resolution of this viewport is adapting to the size of it. That's what pixel density does. It doesn't take the original resolution into account. It just kind of takes 1 pixel and blows it up by this amount. So if you put it to 1, the dithering will be very fine and YouTube will be very unhappy. If you set it to 4, it will be much, much bigger. It will be a lot more exaggerated. If you set it to 12, the image will be near incomprehensible. If you set it to 77, the image will be completely incomprehensible. And if you set it to 3.5, you'll get really ugly looking pixels. And if you set it to 0.5, this happens. I don't recommend setting it to a decimal number. If it were up to me, if materials supported integers, I would just have this as an integer. But I mean, I guess if you want, you can set it to 0.5. I don't recommend it, but you can do that if you want. I think I've covered pretty much everything for now. Now, for future plans of this specific shader, I do want to add things like outlines and the outline customizability and all that. Like, you could just have automatic outlines if you set these things to like a custom stencil value, and you could change them to look more like scratchy or use different paint styles. I will get to that one day. I will. Just that day is not today. I will also consider making a Flipnote 3D shader. Flipnote Studio 3D is just the 3DS version of Flipnote Studio, and it has a lot more features and it's a lot more advanced than the original Flipnote, which can use 6 colors at once, which is fucking crazy. And yeah, that is something I will also add to this at some point, with no amount of price increase, so it will just stay the same price and you will just get more features as it goes on. I don't really have a specific roadmap. My schedule is a little bit fucky, but that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Mum. Last thing I want to mention as an important aside is that this character is going to be included with the package. He's really the first character model I had available. Now, while I am going to package this with the shader, I do want to mention that I do not permit his likeness to be used in any commercial project, so I would appreciate it if you respected that. For personal use, however, you know, go nuts. I mean, hell, I'm a modder. If anyone were to advocate for the freedom of personal use, it'd be me. But yeah, thanks for understanding and thanks for watching. The
Flipnote style shader
is available on the Fab store for, I can't remember, $34.99 I think it was, for professional use. For personal use, it's about $19.99. Have fun with my Flipnote shaders. If you have any suggestions, feel free to put them in the comments. I am going to hibernate for another 6 years. Alright, see you later. I want to give a huge, massive thank you to Grimmest Creeper, my Jet patron, and I want to thank the rest of my patrons as well for being such top people. You guys are awesome, and I will try to post more often to my main account for you.